Margaret Chen had been the head librarian at Riverside Public Library in Portland, Oregon for 23 years. She was 68 years old, small frame, 5'2", maybe 110 pounds soaking wet, wire-rimmed glasses, gray hair always pulled back in a neat bun, sensible shoes, cardigans in every color. She was exactly what people expected a librarian to look like. Quiet, gentle, always ready to help find the right book. The children loved her. She ran story time every Saturday morning, read with different voices for each character, made the kids laugh. The teenagers respected her because she never judged what they were reading. Romance novels, manga, whatever. If it got them reading, she supported it. The adults appreciated her because she remembered everyone's preferences. "Mrs. Johnson, we just got that new mystery you'd love." "Mr. Rodriguez, the gardening book you requested came in." She'd worked at the same library for over 2 decades. Never missed a day except when her husband died 3 years ago. Came back after 1 week. Said the library was where she needed to be. Nobody knew much about her life before Portland. She didn't talk about herself. Just smiled. Did her job. Helped people find books. Went home. Until Tuesday afternoon. November 14th, 2:47 p.m. A man walked into the library wearing a long coat despite the mild weather. Margaret was at the circulation desk, checking out books for a young mother with 2 small children. She looked up as the man entered. Something in her posture changed. Subtle. Most people wouldn't have noticed, but her eyes tracked him. Professional assessment. Threat evaluation. The man walked past the circulation desk toward the back of the library. The main reading room, where 32 people were sitting, reading, studying, using computers. He reached into his coat, pulled out an AR-15 rifle, raised it toward the crowded reading room. What happened in the next 4 seconds would be reviewed by law enforcement agencies across the country, analyzed frame by frame, used as training material. Because Margaret Chen moved faster than anyone thought possible for a 68-year-old librarian. And what the security cameras captured would reveal that the quiet woman, who'd been shelving books for 23 years, was the most dangerous person in that building. If this story of hidden warriors and 4 seconds that saved 32 lives already has you hooked, hit that like button and subscribe. What happens when an active shooter picks the wrong library will prove that some training never fades, and some warriors hide in plain sight. Now, let's break down those 4 seconds that law enforcement still can't believe. Margaret's hand moved to the panic button under the circulation desk. Pressed it. Police dispatch received the silent alarm. Active shooter protocol initiated, but she didn't stop moving. Didn't freeze. Didn't scream. Her body shifted into a stance nobody had ever seen her use. Balanced. Weight forward. Hands ready. The young mother at the desk was still processing what she was seeing. The rifle. The threat. Her brain screaming to move, but her body frozen. Margaret's voice cut through. Not the gentle librarian voice. This was something else entirely. "Take your children." Behind the desk, now. The command tone was absolute. Authoritative. Expected instant obedience. The mother grabbed her kids and dropped behind the desk. Pure instinct triggered by that voice. Margaret was already moving. Around the desk. Toward the shooter. Not away. Toward. The shooter had raised the rifle. Finger moving to the trigger. 32 people in his sight line. Margaret covered the 15 feet between them with speed that defied her age. Her cardigan flew behind her. Her sensible shoes made no sound on the carpet. The shooter's peripheral vision caught movement. He started to turn. Too slow. Margaret's left hand grabbed the rifle barrel, pushed it up and to the right, away from people. Her right hand came up under his elbow, hyperextending the joint, a joint lock perfected through thousands of repetitions. The rifle couldn't point at anyone now. Margaret controlled the muzzle direction absolutely. The shooter tried to pull the trigger. Nothing happened. Margaret's thumb was behind the bolt. The weapon was mechanically unable to fire. The shooter was bigger, stronger, 6 feet tall, 200 pounds, 30 years younger. None of it mattered. Margaret executed a standing armbar, wrist manipulation. The rifle came out of his hands like it was never his to begin with. She transitioned immediately. Weapon retention. Pulled the rifle close to her body where it couldn't be grabbed back. The shooter threw a punch. Wild, desperate, untrained. Margaret shifted. Minimal movement. The punch missed by inches. Her palm strike caught him under the chin. Not hard enough to cause serious injury. Just enough to stun. To create space, the shooter stumbled backward. Off balance. Disoriented, Margaret's foot swept his ankle. Textbook Marine Corps martial arts program technique. He went down hard. She was on him immediately. Knee on his back. One hand controlling his head. The other securing his right arm. The position was perfect. Professional. Someone who'd done this hundreds of times. Don't move. Police are coming. If you move, I will hurt you. Do you understand? Her voice was calm, matter of fact, not angry, not scared. Just stating facts. The shooter nodded. He understood. The library was silent. 32 people staring. Nobody could process what they'd just seen. The elderly librarian. The sweet woman who read stories to children, who helped them find books, who wore cardigans and sensible shoes, had just disarmed an active shooter in 4 seconds. Margaret stayed in position. Knee on the shooter's back, controlling him completely. The rifle on the floor beside her, magazine removed, chamber cleared, made safe through muscle memory. Police arrived 2 minutes later. Burst through the doors. Weapons drawn. Hands. Show me your hands. Margaret's voice was still calm. I'm the librarian. Margaret Chen. I have the suspect controlled. The weapon is on the floor to my right. Magazine removed. Chamber clear. No shots fired. The officers stared. This tiny, elderly woman, in a cardigan, controlling a grown man twice her size. Using professional restraint techniques. Ma'am, we need you to step back. I'll release him when you're ready to take custody. He's not going anywhere. I have him secured. The lead officer, Sergeant Matthews, recognized what he was seeing. That wasn't civilian self-defense. That was military or law enforcement technique. High-level training. Ma'am, are you former law enforcement? Marine Corps, long time ago. Are you ready for transfer of custody? Yes, ma'am, Margaret smoothly transitioned. Released the shooter into police control. Stood up, adjusted her cardigan. Pushed her glasses up her nose. Like nothing had happened, Sergeant Matthews secured the shooter. Then approached Margaret. Ma'am, what's your full background? Marine Corps, 1974 to 1999. 25 years. That's all you need to know. What was your MOS? Your job? Margaret smiled slightly. Classified, still is. But I can tell you I was a Marine Corps martial arts program instructor for 12 years. Before that, other things. The young mother came out from behind the desk, crying, holding her children. You saved us. You saved my babies. Margaret's expression softened. The gentle librarian returning. Just doing what needed to be done. Are your children okay? Because of you. Because of you, they're okay. The security footage went viral within hours. Someone posted it online before police could secure it. Librarian disarms active shooter in 4 seconds. The video showed everything. Margaret's movement, the disarm, the control, the professional restraint. 20 million views in 24 hours. Comments exploded. That's not a librarian. That's someone with serious training. Look at that disarm. That's military. The way she controlled him. That's MCMAP, Marine Corps Martial Arts. Seconds from threat to secured. That's world class. Law enforcement training instructors started calling. FBI, Secret Service, state police academies. Everyone wanted to know, who was Margaret Chen? The Marine Corps confirmed she'd served 25 years. Retired as a gunnery sergeant, but most of her record was redacted. Classified. Reporters dug deeper. Found pieces of her story. Margaret Chen, born 1956, first-generation American. Parents from Taiwan. Joined the Marines in 1974 at age 18, served in multiple classified assignments. Languages: English, Mandarin, Cantonese, Vietnamese, Korean. Deployed to redacted, redacted. Awards: Navy Cross. Silver Star, 3 Bronze Stars with Valor Device. Purple Heart. The Navy Cross citation was partially declassified for extraordinary heroism while serving with redacted during operations in redacted. Gunnery Sergeant Chen, despite being wounded, single-handedly neutralized redacted enemy combatants, recovered redacted sensitive intelligence materials, and extracted redacted personnel under intense fire. The rest was blacked out. News outlets tried to interview her. She declined. All of them. The library tried to make her do a press conference. She refused. I'm a librarian. I help people find books. That's my job. What happened? That was a long time ago. I'd prefer not to talk about it. But the library was flooded with visitors. People wanted to meet her, thank her, take photos. Margaret hated it. The attention, the recognition. She'd left the Marines specifically to be normal, to be invisible, to just be a librarian. 3 weeks after the incident, a man in his 50s came to the library, asked for Margaret by name. She was in her office, processing new book acquisitions. "Can I help you?" she asked, not looking up. "Gunny Chen?" She looked up sharply. Nobody had called her that in 25 years. The man was Asian, former military bearing. Well-dressed but not flashy. "I'm David Kim, Captain, U.S. Army. Retired. I think you know my father." Margaret went very still. "What was your father's name?" "Colonel James Kim, South Korean Army, 1983. You were his Marine liaison. During the mission we don't talk about." Margaret stood up slowly. "Your father, how is he?" "He died last year. Cancer. But before he died he made me promise something. If I ever met you, I was to tell you, the children from the village are alive. All of them. Because of what you did." Margaret's hands gripped the edge of her desk. "He kept track?" "His whole life. Stayed in contact with the families. 41 years. The children you saved in 1983 are grandparents now. They have families, lives, all because you got them out. I was just doing my job. You carried 2 of them, while wounded. Under fire, for 3 miles. My father told me the story. He said you were the bravest Marine he ever served with." Margaret was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Your father was a good man, a good soldier. I'm sorry for your loss. He wanted you to know. The mission mattered. What you did mattered. Those children, they're alive because of you. That's 41 people. Their children, their grandchildren. Hundreds of people exist because of 4 hours in 1983. Just like 32 people are alive today because of 4 seconds last month." After David Kim left, Margaret sat in her office for a long time, thinking about 1983, about classified missions, about choices made in the dark, about becoming a Marine, about learning to fight. about deploying to places that didn't officially exist to do things that never officially happened, about leaving the Marines in 1999, about moving to Portland, about becoming a librarian, about trying to be someone gentle instead of someone dangerous. But in the end, she couldn't escape what she'd been trained to be. When the moment came, when people needed help, the training took over. 4 seconds. That's all it took for 41 years of hiding to become irrelevant. The library had returned to normal. The media attention had faded. Margaret was back to being the quiet librarian. But something had changed. Not in her, but in how people saw her. The children still came to story time. But now their parents looked at her differently, with respect, with gratitude, with the understanding that this gentle woman who read stories could also protect them if needed. The teenagers asked her questions. Is it true you were a Marine? Did you really serve 25 years? What was it like? She answered honestly but briefly. Yes, I was a Marine. Yes, I served. It was complicated. But I prefer being a librarian. I like helping people find books more than I like the other things. One Saturday morning, a high school girl stayed after story time, waited until the other children left. Mrs. Chen, can I ask you something? Of course. I'm thinking about joining the military. The Marines. But everyone says girls shouldn't, that it's too hard, that I'm not strong enough. Margaret looked at her, this young woman, uncertain but determined. Can I tell you something? The hardest thing about being a Marine wasn't the physical training. It was proving every single day that I deserved to be there, that I belonged. Some people will never believe you belong. They'll look at you, small, female, different, and assume you can't do it. So how did you handle it? I didn't handle it. I just did the job, over and over, until the job spoke louder than their assumptions. You're not strong enough? Prove them wrong. Girls shouldn't. Show them what girls can do too hard? Do it anyway. Is that what you did? Every single day for 25 years. And you know what I learned? The people who doubt you don't matter. The mission matters. Your fellow Marines matter. Doing your job matters. Everything else is noise. The girl nodded. The video. From last month. The way you moved. That was amazing. I didn't know someone your age could move like that. Margaret smiled. The training stays with you. The skills don't go away just because you get older. They're there, waiting, for when you need them. Do you regret it? Being a Marine? The classified stuff? Margaret thought about that question. Really thought about it. No, I don't regret it. It was hard, dangerous, sometimes terrible. But it mattered. The people I protected mattered. The children from 1983 who are alive today matter. The 32 people in this library last month matter. If I hadn't been a Marine, I couldn't have saved them. So no regrets. If I join, will you help me prepare? Absolutely. We'll start with physical training. Then we'll work on the mindset. The mental toughness you'll need. Because the Marines will break you down. But if you're strong enough, they'll build you back up into something better. Word spread. Other young people asked for help, preparing for military service. Mostly women, but some men too. People who saw what Margaret had done and wanted to be capable like her. She started a program at the library. Free training every Tuesday and Thursday evening. Physical fitness, self-defense, mental toughness. 20 people showed up the first night. 40 the second week. By month 3, she had 80 regular participants. She taught them what the Marines had taught her. Not just fighting, but discipline, resilience, doing hard things when you don't want to. The shooter last month made a mistake, she told them one evening. He assumed I was helpless because I'm old, small, female, a librarian. He made assumptions based on appearance. Never make that mistake. Never assume someone is helpless. Never underestimate someone because of how they look. And never let someone underestimate you. Use their assumptions against them. But also, never be the person who needs to use those skills. The best fight is the one that never happens. The best warrior is the one who prevents violence through presence and awareness. The Portland Police Department asked her to teach a course, Active Shooter Response for Civilians. She agreed. Taught 200 people in 6 months. The FBI asked her to consult on training programs. She helped them improve close-quarters combat instruction. The Marine Corps asked her to come to Quantico, guest instructor for MC MAP. She spent 2 weeks teaching the next generation of Marine martial arts instructors, standing in front of 200 young Marines, teaching them the same techniques she'd learned 45 years ago, showing them that a 68-year-old woman could still execute every technique perfectly. The Commandant of the Marine Corps attended her final class, presented her with a special recognition. Gunnery Sergeant Chen exemplifies the warrior spirit that never dies. Once a Marine, always a Marine, the active shooter from that day. His name was never released. He'd been stopped before he could hurt anyone, charged with attempted murder, sentenced to 30 years. During the trial, his public defender argued that he'd been stopped by a highly trained former military operative, that his client never had a chance. The prosecutor responded, "The defendant brought a rifle into a library full of innocent people, children, mothers, students. He intended to kill them. The fact that he chose a location where a former Marine happened to work isn't a defense. It's luck, the victim's luck, not his." The jury convicted him in 2 hours. After the trial, one of the jurors approached Margaret in the courthouse hallway. "I just want to thank you. My niece was in that library, in the reading room. She's alive because of you." Margaret smiled gently. "I'm glad she's safe. That's all that matters. Can I ask you something? Were you scared when you went toward him?" Margaret considered the question. "No, I wasn't scared. I was focused. 50 years of training took over. I saw the threat. I assessed it. I neutralized it. There wasn't time for fear. Fear comes after, when you realize what could have happened." Do you have nightmares about what could have happened? Sometimes, but then I remember it didn't happen. 32 people went home safe that day. That's what I focus on. The library erected a small plaque in the main reading room, where the incident had occurred. On this site, November 14, 2024, lives were saved through courage and training. We honor those who stand ready to protect others, even at risk to themselves. Margaret asked them to take it down. They refused, compromised by not including her name, just the date, the deed, the reminder. Margaret Chen continued working as the head librarian at Riverside Public Library. She retired at age 70, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. Her retirement party filled the entire library. 500 people, former Marines who'd heard about her, students she'd trained, people from the library that day, families whose children she'd protected. The young mother from the circulation desk spoke. Her children, now 8 and 6, presented Margaret with a handmade card. "Thank you for saving our lives." The high school girl who'd asked about joining the Marines was there. In uniform, private first class, home on leave from boot camp. "You were right, Mrs. Chen, it was hard. But I did it. Because you showed me I could." Sergeant Matthews from the Portland Police spoke. "What happened that day has changed how we train officers. The 4-second response, the weapon control, the restraint techniques. We study that footage. We teach it because it represents the gold standard of civilian active threat response. A representative from the Marine Corps presented Margaret with a ceremonial sword, inscribed, Gunnery Sergeant Margaret Chen, warrior, teacher, librarian, semper fidelis. Margaret's speech was brief. She'd never liked public speaking. I was a Marine for 25 years. I've been a librarian for 23. Both jobs taught me the same thing. Service matters. Helping people matters. Whether you're protecting them in combat or helping them find the right book. It all matters. What happened 2 years ago? I did what I was trained to do, what any Marine would do. Protect people who can't protect themselves. That's the job. That was always the job. But here's what I learned being a librarian. You don't have to be a warrior to be strong. You don't have to fight to make a difference. The young mother who protected her children by following orders. The teenager who called 911. The man who helped evacuate the building. They were all heroes that day too. I just happened to have different training. Training I hoped I'd never need again. But I'm grateful I had it, because 32 people went home that night. That's what matters. She stepped down from the podium. The entire library stood and applauded. Because Margaret Chen had spent 49 years serving others. 25 as a Marine. 23 as a librarian. And one afternoon, 4 seconds where both roles merged into the perfect response. The warrior who'd become a librarian. The librarian who'd never stopped being a warrior. 4 seconds that revealed the truth. Some training never fades. Some skills never leave. And some heroes hide in plain sight, wearing cardigans and reading stories to children until the moment they're needed.